Good evening. Welcome to episode 27 of the Hockey Variety Podcast. Thank you for tuning in. It's been a whole week since I put out an episode. Crazy. I thought I was gonna be able to, but I don't know. I got busy. It's fine. Kind of expect once a week for, well, I don't know. It's the playoffs. Who knows? The playoffs are gonna start. It's crazy. We know all the matchups now. I think it was Wednesday night. We knew everyone that was gonna make it, or maybe it's Thursday night. I don't know. But, the matchups got finalized just the other day, and everybody's making their brackets, and all their brackets probably look the same. And we'll see if mine will be any different, because I will be going through my bracket in today's episode. Got a couple things I want to talk about first, but yeah, the main focus is going to be my playoff bracket. But other than that, no, nothing new really going on. Just really excited for the playoffs. Games start tomorrow night. So I'm definitely going to be glued to the television for that. Especially Oilers and the LA Kings. That's probably the one series. I don't know. There's a few series I'm pretty psyched about, but that's certainly one of them. But yeah, a few other things I want to talk about first. So we'll just get right into it. So this happened before the last episode. I don't know. I didn't feel like talking about it, I guess. Or maybe I just needed a bit of time to kind of digest what happened, but it was not really a huge deal, but I do want to talk about it. So Saturday night, so what was that, 8 days ago now, the Leafs and the Montreal Canadiens met, and the Leafs totally killed them. It was 7-1, but with 1 minute left, it was like 70 seconds, 80 seconds, something like that. The Leafs actually had an emergency backup goalie that night, who just so happens to be a goalie that I've seen play live at least like 3 or 4 times. Jett Alexander, he was a member of the Prince George Spruce Kings for, I think it was just one season. But every game I caught, he was playing for them. So, I got to see this guy play live. And it was really cool to see the Leafs just kind of plug him into the game for that last minute. He didn't face any shots or anything like that, but it's still something cool to see, and was pretty much universally praised by people, like, oh, that's a good deed, except for Montreal Canadiens defenseman Chris Weidman, who had some words to say about it. He wasn't very happy. He thought it was disrespectful, and then he went on to say, oh, the Leafs are going to get what's coming to them soon, which is hilarious to me, because it's like, dude, so your team sucks. You're pretty much saying, like, oh, the bigger kid is going to beat him up. Oh, Tampa Bay is going to beat him up. It's like, that. I don't know. That seemed kind of sad. But, I don't know. Being upset about this, like, I don't know. I mean, I had to go on, like, a hockey DB after, and because I wanted to see how old this guy was. Because I could have swore he was in, like, his 60s with this boomer take of his. But, no, he's, like, 33. So, yeah, he was kind of upset about that. But the thing is, like, if you don't want that to happen, then don't suck. Like, don't let it. If it was a 2-1 game or even a 3-1 game, the Leafs aren't making that move, right? But it's a 7-1 game. Like, you kind of put this on yourself. And let's not forget, this is the Montreal Canadiens and the Toronto Maple Leafs. Okay, this is the oldest hockey rivalry in hockey history, right? One of the oldest rivalries in sports history. And you're like, oh, boo-hoo, they hurt my feelings. Like, whatever, Good moment for Jett Alexander. It'd be really cool to see him someday get into an NHL game. I doubt it's going to happen. There's just too much talent out there. He's only playing at, like, the CIS level, I think, probably for U of T, University of Toronto. But really cool to see that moment. That made me very happy. Okay, next thing. And then I'll get into my bracket after this. So on 32 Thoughts with Elliot Friedman and Jeff Merrick on Monday, and it seems like some people have already kind of fired back at Friedman about this, but he said right now his Vezina pick, well, as of Monday, but I'm sure that hasn't changed, his pick for the Vezina is Connor Hellebuck. And then he went on to say that UC Saros is close, which I thought was funny. So he pretty much just picked the two goalies that are leading in games played. And that is literally the only category he seems to be going off of. And, that made me a little cranky, I guess, because it really goes against the typical, the criteria for what goes into the voting for the Vezina Trophy. Really, because the only thing he looked at, it seems like, was games played. He put way too much weight in games played. And yes, that's an important category, but when you look historically at this award, it's wins and it's save percentage. And right now, well, I mean, the season's over, so it's definite now. Linus Allmark finished the season with the tie in wins. More on who he tied with in a second here. But he dominated in save percentage with a 938. I know Gustafson was in the 930s too, but he didn't have nearly as many wins. But it's Allmark's award, and I really don't like the hipster vote. It's totally the hipster vote. It might be a bit of that Canadian market bias, and I don't really like it when guys they get less credit for an award because they're on a really good team. I mean, it's not Allmark's fault that Winnipeg had, I want to say, a disappointing season because they're in the playoffs, but I mean, let's look at the stats, and I think when you really look at the stats and even some of the advanced stats, you can tell why there's a much stronger argument for Allmark still. So games played, yeah, Hellebuck's got him. He's got 15 more games played than Allmark. It's 49 for Allmark and 64 for Hellebuck. Okay, and that 49 games is actually 18th, I believe, and 64 games played for Hellebuck. That's first. Wins is actually kind of close though. Allmark's got 40, Hellebuck's got 37. But when you look at their records, Allmark's 46-1, and then Hellebuck is 37, 26 losses, and 2 overtime or shootout losses. So yeah, and then another big difference between the save percentage too. Hellebuck has a 920, respectable. I'd say it's more than respectable. I'd say that's a very good season. But Allmark had a 938 by the end of the season. Like, insane. And I have at the bottom of the screen there, too. Those are the save percentages of every goalie that's won the Vezina with a 930 or higher. And he has a better one than all of them. I'm not saying he had a better season than, like, Price's crazy season by any means. But he's in that same, like, echelon as those goalies. So I think just looking at that, there's a pretty good argument that Allmark should be, without a doubt, the one everyone should be voting for the Vezina. And somehow he's not Elliot Friedman's number 1 or number 2. And don't get me wrong, I have a lot of respect for those guys. They obviously have a lot of good insider information. I like listening to their podcast. That's not going to change, but I don't know. Something about the hipster pick just kind of made me a little grumpy. So I looked into some advanced stats too, because maybe there's that argument that, okay, Allmark, he's got good numbers because he's on a good team, rather than the Boston Bruins are good because of Allmark. And I'll throw Swayman in there too. But again, this isn't the Hart Trophy, so I don't know why we're putting so much weight in that. But when you look at goals saved above expected per 60 minutes, so when you think about it, like how many goals were prevented per game on average as a result of this goalie being in net, Allmark's got a 0.883, so just under 1 goal saved per game. And then Hellebuck, 0.486, so about half a goal per game, right? So Allmark has almost double the goals saved above expect per 60 minutes, which is excellent, really. I think that goes to show that it's not just the team in front of him. And then I wanted to look at high danger save percentage as well, because if the argument is, okay, Hellebuck's on a worse team, therefore there'll be more high quality scoring chances. And of course, I didn't really factor in the sample size too much with this, but you can see Allmark's is a little bit better. He has a 75.9% high danger save percentage, whereas Hellebuck's got a 74.1. So it's close, but if Hellebuck was really getting all these high danger, shot attempts, and he has to stop them all, you think it would show, but it's actually pretty close. So yeah, I don't really get the hipster pick. I mean, why take something away from Allmark? I think the argument is that, I think Boston's goaltending has been their MVP. I mean, they have an almost historic goals against. I mean, I know we look at the big point totals, but when you compare their goals against for the season compared to some of the other teams in history, they're way up there. They're really close to the top. They're probably like, I'm going to say top 5. I should have got that stat up, but Allmark and Swayman, there's a really strong argument that tandem has been their MVP. I know Pasternak had 60 whatever goals. He had over 60 goals. And, you can throw him in that too. But, the goaltending was a big part of it. And I don't think Allmark's getting... I mean, he's going to win the Vezina. He's going to get the recognition. And Friedman said himself that people are stressing too much about who votes for who. But this stuff matters. I mean, you have a vote. You're lucky enough to have a vote. I mean, I don't have a vote, right? So that'd be pretty sweet, though. I think I would do a good job. Just saying. But here's another thing, okay? So if we're giving Hellebuyck all of this recognition, why not Georgiev, right? So Alexander Georgiev, the goalie on Colorado, he finished with also 40 wins because he won that start on Friday, which, by the way, my fantasy finals came right down to that game. It was so tight. I lost my fantasy finals by about 15 points. It was like 715 to 700. It was really close. Yeah, that was just insane. I was like glued to my TV watching that Colorado. Who were they playing? It's Colorado and it was Nashville. Yeah, it's Colorado, Nashville. And there was like a cross crease pass, like Byram to Rodriguez, who I had both in fantasy. And if that connected, I probably would have won my finals. It was just a missed shot. Like it came right down to the wire. That was insane. It was a good season for fantasy, but I'm gonna have to settle with second place. But anyways, Georgiev, he won that game, so he got to the 40 win mark. He finished 40, 16, and 6. So not that many less games played than Hellebuyck and more wins. And he finished with a 919. And when Hellebuyck finished with a 920, Georgiev finished with a 919, so 1 point less, and 3 more wins. I'm not saying Georgiev should be ahead of Hellebuyck necessarily, but he's not getting talked about enough. In fact, I personally, I'd have him ahead of Hellebuyck in my ballot, to be honest. But again, is it because he's on a good team? I don't think so. I didn't look at the advanced stats of Georgiev, but I don't think he's getting enough recognition, but it should be Allmark's award no matter what. Okay, let's take a look at the playoff bracket. So I didn't make it live like I planned because I made all my picks for my work bracket, because every year we do something for work where we kind of make our picks and how many games and this and that. And we do it for every single round. And I didn't really feel like doing it live because I already made my work picks. So I'm just going to kind of go through each of my picks and let you know what I think. Really try not to go with like my heart again, because I find I maybe sway a bit more towards the teams that I want to win. And I really wanted to leave that out because I learned last year, I picked Tampa to win the cup all last season up until like the day before playoffs. And then I switched to Florida and I regret it. I think part of me just wanted to, Florida can do it. This will be such a good story. I know they won the President's Trophy, but it's like, oh man, this would be so cool. And then they blew it in the second round. So, for the record though, if you want to know who I'm cheering for, obviously none of my favorite teams are in the playoffs this year. San Jose, Columbus, Arizona, they didn't make it. So I'm going to have to pick some teams to root for. Obviously, I'm rooting for Seattle. I don't think they're going to go anywhere, spoiler alert, but it would be really cool to see Seattle go on a run. And I'm going to make my clickbait thumbnail with Seattle winning the cup so people click on this video, but it's not going to happen. But, I'm rooting for Seattle. It'd be cool to see Minnesota do something. Obviously, the Canadian teams, there hasn't been a cup in Canada since 93, so... the Jets, I don't really like the Jets this year, but the Jets, Oilers, of course, the Leafs, it'd be sweet to do. It'd be awesome to see the Leafs do something, especially get out of the first round. That'd be great. It'd be cool to see Florida do something. Of course, there's a lot of underdogs. There's a lot of good stories here, but there's also like those Titans that you kind of want to see them lose, like Colorado and Tampa Bay. So, we'll get into the bracket though, but just to give you an idea, that's who I'm rooting for. In a perfect world, I'd have Seattle win the cup, but I honestly don't think it's going to happen because I think Colorado's going to beat them in the first round. I've really no surprises there. I think most people are picking Colorado to win this. They've been on fire going into the playoffs. They're the defending Stanley Cup champion. There's a few red flags with Seattle too, especially the goaltending. But it would be sweet if they pulled it off. It really would be. But Personally, I think it's going to be Colorado, and I don't think it's going to be close. I think it'll be 5 games. Um, it'll show the games in how many games, I think, in a few slides here, but pretty sure I said 5 games for Colorado over Seattle. But yeah, no, they're stacked. I mean, they're not going to have Landeskog though. That came out that Landeskog's not going to be playing in the playoffs, so I think that might affect them going on a run. But I think just in terms of that first round, no, they got Seattle in the bag. So Dallas and Minnesota, this one out of the West, I think this will end up being the closest. And that's going to be a good series, I think. It's the former North Stars against the current Minnesota team. So that's kind of neat. These guys met, I think, a few years ago. And yeah, this should be a really good series. I wanted to take Minnesota, but my gut went with Nashville. Not Nashville, sorry, Dallas. Nashville's not in the playoffs, but yeah, I don't know. My gut was just telling me it's Dallas. They got too much talent. And Jake Oettinger, he might go playoff mode and really, show Minnesota how it's done. And I think it's just kind of a confidence thing. I don't know if Kaprizov will be totally healthy. Like, is he going to play 1 or 2 games and then he's done? Or because I had him in fantasy those last couple weeks, and he was in then out, then in then out. So he did score a goal when he was in those. So who knows? But I don't know. I would love to see Minnesota win that series, but my gut is telling me Dallas. Okay, so Vegas and Winnipeg. And yeah, I went with Vegas with this one too. No surprises at all with that. I don't know. I don't have enough confidence in Winnipeg. I don't have enough confidence even in Hellebuck, as you can probably tell from that last little spiel I went on. But no, I think Vegas, they just have the parts that just make a better team. They got Stone back in the lineup for the playoffs. For me, this one's a no-brainer. I think probably like 6 games. I think maybe 6 games for Dallas, Minnesota too. I don't know. It'll show all the games played on the screen after this next one, but yeah, I'm just going to Vegas. I don't know. I got a better feeling about them. I think Winnipeg's kind of lacking that depth, but we'll have to wait and see. I don't know. They do have a really good goalie. He could pull it off, right? And then Edmonton and LA, I'm really excited to see this rematch again for a second year in a row. Last season it was awesome. I know I was listening to it mostly on like the radio because we didn't have cable at the time, or we didn't have internet at the time, so I listened to a lot of this series though, and yeah, 7-game series, really exciting. But this is a totally different Edmonton team than last time. They got more capable goaltending, in my opinion. They got Ekholm, who is just awesome, and he's fit in so well. And then McDavid, he's hit a different gear this year, and now it's playoff time. He's going to turn it on even more. But I don't want to underestimate LA either, because I do think they have some really good parts to that team too. I like Korpisalo a lot. Korpisalo was great in the 2020 playoffs for Columbus. If they choose to start Korpisalo, which I kind of think they will, that could be a very, very interesting series. But like everyone else is picking, yeah, I'm picking Edmonton. There's all the games played. So yeah, I got Edmonton in 6 for that. That one could easily go 7 though. That should be a really good one. So yeah, I got Colorado in 5, Dallas in 6, Vegas in 6, and then Edmonton in 6. But any of those last 3, I think, could definitely go to 7. So yeah, let's jump over the East though for the first round. So Boston and Florida. So you seem to have like the people that think Boston is just going to absolutely just totally obliterate Florida, which I don't think is going to happen. And then you have the people that think that Boston they're going to choke because of, I don't know, voodoo or something, President's Trophy cursed or whatever, But no, I'm taking Boston. These guys had a historic season. They might be without Bergeron at the start though, which is a little scary. And if there's any team that could pounce on them like a panther, it would be the Panthers. So I wouldn't underestimate the Panthers, but I am taking Boston. But I'm taking Boston in 7. I think this is going to come down to the wire. I think this is going to be tight. I don't think this is going to be a blowout by any means, despite the historic season they had. I don't think you can underestimate this Florida team, but who's starting? Is it Alex Lyon? That's That's kind of who I would go with. But it just seems like, it's a very unproven goalie still. He's had a good run, but, is he going to play spoiler? I don't know. I would love to see it, though. I would love nothing more than to see the Panthers beat the Boston Bruins in the first round just for the spectacle of it. But I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think that's realistic at all. I think Boston is going to win. But again, I'm thinking 7. I think this is going to be tight. There are definitely going to be people that think there's going to be 4 or 5, but no, I don't think this is going to be easy. I think this can go the other way. But yeah, taking Boston in 7 for that one. Toronto and Tampa. Okay, so this is the rematch. This seems to be the one everyone's talking about. And it's a very different story from last season because Tampa has been probably, like, out of the 16 playoffs teams, they've probably been the worst down the stretch. I think their record's pretty close to 500 throughout, like, March and April. Like, yeah, they're not looking good. I think Tanner Jeannot is injured, but they got Andre Vasilevsky, which is always, he's the ultimate wild card. I've been saying this all season. Vasilevsky's he's the ultimate wild card in the playoffs. I mean, he could just turn it on and win this series for Tampa because Tampa has the firepower to, let their goalie kind of carry them, and then they score enough goals, right? And that's another thing with Toronto. Is Samsonov going to be healthy? It sounds like he is. Sounds like he's starting, but is he going to be able to stay healthy? I don't know. I really don't. And I don't think they're going to put Jett Alexander in for the playoffs. So, they're really depending on Samsonov staying healthy because I don't think Murray's ready yet. And then who do you have next? Woll? Like, is Woll going to get the job done? Like, the goaltending depth is a little scary in Toronto, but, a lot of their depth guys that they picked up at the deadline are going to get healthy. This is a very different Toronto team. They're a lot more deep. And I've been hesitant because I always pick against Toronto because they haven't given me a reason. But, I think this is the year. I'm jumping on the Toronto bandwagon, at least for the first round. I think they get the job done. I don't think it's going to go to 7 because if it does go to 7, I think Toronto's going to blow it. So I'm thinking 6. And yeah, that's just what I'm going with. I'm going with Toronto. I don't know. I think this is the year that they finally get out of the first round. But I also think we're underestimating Tampa because it's Tampa, right? Tampa's also very tired too. I mean, 3 straight years of making the Stanley Cup Finals, that's a lot of games. That's a lot of wear and tear. But is a guy like playoff mode Andre Vasilevsky going to care? Probably not. So that could go the other way as well, easily. And that's definitely going to be the first round matchup to watch. But I don't know. There's a lot of them I'm going to want to keep an eye on. Okay, so Carolina and the Islanders. So the Carolina Hurricanes have been kind of schmeh recently. I know they managed to stay afloat and win the Metro in the regular season, but I don't know. They've been kind of meh lately, I think. Whereas the Islanders have been fighting it out to make the playoffs, and they've been working hard, and they're getting healthy, and Barzell's getting healthy too. So, there's a lot to look forward to on Long Island. And I'm actually, I've played it pretty safe so far, but I'm taking the upset. I'm thinking the Islanders are going to win that. I have a hunch. I can't really say what else. I mean, Sorokin's a monster. And I think he has another gear in the playoffs that he's going to reach, and then he's going to just get the job done himself, really. Which I think transitions very well into the other Metro matchup between the Devils and the Rangers. I would love to see the Devils go on a run with Timo Meier, with all those young guys they have. It would be great. But you look at the experience, you look at the lineup, you look at Shesterkin. I can't bet against the Rangers. I can't. The Rangers are they're way too deep, I think. And I can't see them. I can't see them losing that match. I think it'll go 7 though. I don't know. Something about that matchup just screams 7. But I have more confidence in the Rangers right now. I got a lot of confidence in Shesterkin. He showed last playoffs that he can get it done in the playoffs. And I think he'll get it done in that first round matchup too. So okay, second round. Colorado Dallas. I did go back and forth on this one. I did. And I definitely didn't want to pick Colorado for the sake of picking Colorado, because I know a lot of people, have gotten to the same matchup in their bracket and then pick Colorado. And I really want to pick Dallas. And, maybe my opinion will change if Ottinger just like turns it on. But I'm still going Colorado. By the way, the games played in the East. Boston in 7, Toronto in 6. I got the Islanders in 7, actually. I think that one will be a long one. And then I also have the Rangers in 7 too. But anyways, I got Colorado for that second round matchup over Dallas. I don't know. These guys, they're proven. Even without Landeskog, I think they got the firepower that they can put at least enough pucks behind Ottinger to get this done. I really do. And then Vegas and Edmonton. I went with Edmonton. I'm on the bandwagon. It's just, I don't even want to say I'm on the bandwagon because I've been saying this for over a month. And I hate it when boomers are like, I've been saying this for years, and it's like nobody cared for years, man. But straight up, like listeners of the podcast will know I've been behind Edmonton for the Stanley Cup for a while now. Because you see that duo between McDavid and Draisaitl, like I can't see those two not winning a cup together. And why not this year? In order for them to get to the Stanley Cup final, they'll probably have to go past Vegas. I got them over Vegas. I do. I think it's just the offense. Vegas doesn't have that like solidified number one goalie right now. And I think when it gets to the second round, that's really going to show. I think, if it's Brossoit in net, he might get him past Winnipeg, but I can't see him getting him past Edmonton. Like, no way. Not with that firepower. If Vegas wants any chance to beat Edmonton, though, they'll have to really stay disciplined and stay out of the box and not let that power play take over. So, Western Conference Finals, I've got Colorado and Edmonton. And I'm not even going to bother with the games played in the second round here. I think both those matchups will go the distance. It'll be 6 or 7, really. Okay, Boston-Toronto. This would be such a great matchup. Even if it's Boston-Tampa, if it's Florida-Tampa, I think no matter what, whatever matchup's coming out of the Atlantic, it's going to be sweet. Florida-Toronto, like that would be really any combination will make for a good second round. But Boston-Toronto, this is a tough one. I don't know. I mean, part of me wants to pick Toronto, but it feels kind of weird. It's like, okay, they got their first round, but Boston? I don't know. I'm picking Boston, but I feel like that's another gut instinct kind of pick. It's just they're proven. But hey, this could be the year Toronto goes on this magical run, beats Boston along the way. That'd be cool. That'd be sweet. I think that'd be really good for the hockey world. But it's Boston. I mean, they had this just magical season. They got so many good pieces. If Bergeron is kind of hurt in that first round, he's going to be good for the second round. I mean, anything can happen, of course. But I got Boston. And then we have the Islanders and the New York Rangers. And, I wouldn't count out the Islanders at all, but I'm going with the Rangers. And it's another one of those gut instinct ones. I got a good feeling about the Rangers. I got a good feeling about Shesterkin. Shesterkin versus Sorokin would be just crazy duel. But then you got all these depth guys they brought in, Tarasenko and Kane. I think it's Patrick Kane that's really going to show up in these playoffs too. And I think Patrick Kane is what's seriously going to take this team on a run. He's been there, he's done that. And, I think now that he's gotten a bit more comfortable in New York, I think he's going to turn it on in the playoffs. Okay, Colorado, Edmonton, third round, rematch from last year's Western Conference Finals where Colorado swept Edmonton, though Edmonton was looking pretty done by then, personally, just kind of seeing. But I think it's going to go the other way this year. I went with Edmonton. And you knew this was coming. People that listen to the podcast, this was coming. I was going to pick Edmonton to go to the Stanley Cup Finals. And I think maybe this is where not having Landeskog comes back to bite them, really. I think Edmonton's firepower is just gonna, get it done, and I think they'll get good enough goaltending out of Skinner. And I wouldn't even count out Campbell. If something happened to Skinner, I think Campbell could get the job done too. Edmonton has a good record with Campbell in net, despite Campbell having some really bad numbers this season. A lot of that was from early on, but either way, I have way more confidence in the Oilers than I did last season. And then out of the East, okay, so you got Boston and the Rangers. That would be such a crazy Eastern Conference Finals. I'd be glued to my TV if that's what happened. And everyone's picking Boston. I wanted to pick Boston, and I'm not just doing this just to be different, maybe a little bit, but genuinely, I think if this happened, it would go to 7, and I think the Rangers would come out of it. Really, I think it's one of those goaltending things. I know Allmark's going to win the Vezina, but in the playoffs, I got more confidence in Shesterkin, and I think that's what it's going to come down to. So, yeah, it could it could definitely go Boston's way, though. I understand why everyone's picking Boston to win the Cup, and I think there's a good chance that's going to happen. But you know what? I think if it came down to Boston, New York, I think New York would find a way. Which means our Stanley Cup final would be Edmonton and New York. That would be crazy. 2 franchises that have been around the block for a while. 2 franchises that haven't won a cup since the 90s. Both of them. So this would be very exciting. And just like 2 pretty big hockey markets too. Fans in Edmonton are going to be going crazy. The fans at MSG are going to go absolutely nuts. And I'm picking Edmonton. Yeah, crazy. Canadian team winning the Stanley Cup. I don't know. This, again, I can't see McDavid and Draisaitl not winning a cup together. This is a different team from last year. It's definitely made up so different too. You got better goaltending, you got better defense. The depth guys are coming through now, right? From the first line to the fourth line. Nuge, Hyman, Evander Kane's healthy. Like, this is just such a good Oilers team. They were, 14-0-1 down the stretch. They're the hottest team coming into the playoffs, too. And usually there's a pretty good correlation between being hot coming in the playoffs and then success in the playoffs. And I'm not saying that's going to be the only thing, but yeah, that's, I don't know. I think they're going to overpower the Rangers. That'd be a really fun Stanley Cup Finals, though. And I think that would go down to 6 or 7, too. And then I needed a tiebreaker for, goals scored in the Stanley Cup Finals. If these 2 met in the Stanley Cup Finals, I feel like it'd be pretty high scoring. I went with 45, which seems like a crazy number, but I mean, if it went to 7 games, that's just over 6 per game. It could happen. I don't know. That's probably a really, really high number, but I don't know. I thought it'd be fun to pick something crazy like that. So, yeah, Edmonton Oilers, they're my pick for the Cup. Probably not going to happen, but it'd be pretty cool. Again, I'd love to see Seattle win the Cup in their second year. That'd be crazy, but there's a lot of good stories going in the playoffs this year. I just hope it's not something boring like Colorado and Tampa again, or even Colorado and Boston. I want something exciting. I want something silly. This is probably not how things are going to go. I think we'll see at least a few upsets in the first round. I think we're due. But I don't really have the balls to pick who's going to be the upset, right? I don't want to see if Florida's going to be Boston, because deep down, I don't think that's going to happen. But I think it could happen, because Florida is a lot better, I think, than people give them credit. This is the team that won the President's Trophy last year, too. They are capable. And I don't know. I have more confidence in, having Matthew Tkachuk in the playoffs than I would Jonathan Huberdeau. So, he's the kind of player that's made for playoffs. But anyways, I don't have them coming out of the first round, so it doesn't matter. Edmonton, they are my pick for the Stanley Cup. Totally crazy, but I don't know. I think they're putting up a pretty big argument right now. And for the record, I was the first one to pick them. I know everyone else is picking them now. I was first, though. And that's it for today's podcast. Pretty short one, but I don't know. It's Sunday night. Didn't feel like rambling too much. If you enjoyed the podcast, please be sure to leave a like, subscribe on YouTube. I have an Instagram page as well, Hockey Variety Podcast on Instagram. And there's a Facebook page that I'm slowly starting to abandon, because who uses Facebook, right? No one. Old people. If they're not on Twitter, they're on Facebook. But yeah, I've been very active on the Instagram page, so feel free to follow the podcast there. And I should have another one out sometime in the week. Try to keep up with the playoff games. I'm so psyched. And I'll be talking a lot about the playoffs on Instagram as well. So be sure to follow the podcast there and on YouTube. And yeah, thanks for listening.